Welcome to Screencast number 2 for Mrs. Kovach's chemistry classes, particularly honors chemistry. Today we're going to be talking about chemistry and matter, which is in section 1.2. Then we'll cover section 1.3 and section 1.4 from your textbook. But particularly I'm focusing on what I think is important in these sections. So from section 1.2 we want to make sure we understand the difference between mass and weight. So once again, here are the textbook definitions. Mass is a measurement that reflects the amount of matter. Now hopefully you can tell me the most common unit for mass. Anyone? Ah yes, you're right, that would be the gram. Weight is a measure not only of the amount of matter, but also of the effect of Earth's gravitational pull on that matter. And so we typically measure weight in pounds in the United States. But hopefully last year in physics you learned another unit that you see in this picture on the page, and it's a capital N. So perhaps in class someone can tell me what that capital N stands for. And I'll give you a hint, it does not mean Nancy. Homework question number 1 is to show me that you understand the difference between mass and weight. So make sure that you are writing down the answers to these questions. And also make sure that you're writing down anything that you think you're not going to remember. Okay, remember that's part of your notes. And moving right along, we have homework question number 2. Why do scientists use mass instead of weight for their measurements? So you want to think about why that might possibly be the case. Also here I want to talk about the difference between these two instruments. This, in case you can't tell from the picture, is something that you might have at home that you use to keep track of how much you weigh. This is called a scale. Do not call it a balance. Okay, this is a scale. It takes into account gravity, and so therefore it measures weight. This, on the other hand, is an electronic balance. Call it a balance, do not call it a scale. Okay, balances are measuring mass. And so you have to think about what this machine does not take into account and what this one does. Also notice that, well, you can't really tell here, but this should be in pounds, and this, of course, that is a G if you can't see it, so that's in grams. All right, so see if you can think about why scientists would use mass instead of weight. Alrighty, question number 3. Why is it important for chemists to study changes in the world at a submicroscopic level? Okay, and submicroscopic would be less than microscopic, so that would mean it would be pretty darn small. And so here we see a picture of what is likely DNA, I believe it is, and I'm showing you that, you know, this molecule results in this cute little baby over here. Well, maybe not this particular molecule, but anyway, the idea here is for you to think about the answer to this question, and if you're still stuck that it says here, consult your textbook, section 1.2. All right, so give that question some thought. Next we have section 1.3, which is entitled Scientific Methods. An interesting question might be, why do you think they entitled it Scientific Methods, plural? Not totally sure why they did that, but we might discuss that in class. And then here's your question 4. I'd like for you to look at these two models and see if you can figure out what is similar, you're comparing, and what is different, you're contrasting, right? You've had these words in probably lots of other classes on lots of different tests. So let's see if you can figure out what I'm addressing here with comparing and contrasting these two diagrams. And we will talk about this in class, of course. Let's see if we can figure out if there's anything that's unclear here. This word says consistent and not consistent down here. I think that says, good question, not sure what that box says, but anyway, we'll compare these two diagrams and talk about that in class. All right, homework question number 5. What is the chronological order of these steps in the scientific method? And chronological, for anyone that can't remember that means in order. You know, what would you start with and what would you finish with? And so see if you can figure out an order that would probably make sense. Now, is it possible that your order could change? Certainly it is. Is it possible that there's more than one correct answer? I would say there is. And so we will try as a group to come up with a consensus, but you figure out what you think is your personal choice on this order. All right. Question 6. On to a new topic here. Identify the quantitative and qualitative data that you could collect about these pieces of glassware and the liquids that are in them. Okay, so see if you can take a look at that and figure out basically the difference between quantitative and qualitative. All right, let's see. Here's just a listing of the vocabulary that you should know from these, I think it's 4 sections, or 3 sections rather, from Chapter 1. This is listed in your book too, so you really don't need to write these down. But if you want to put this into your notes and make sure that you know what these terms are, that would be a grand idea. All right, homework question number 7. You are asked to study the effect of temperature on the volume of a balloon. The balloon's size increases as it is warmed. So, now here's some terms that we just looked at, and hopefully you remember what these are from previous science classes. But question A of question 7 is, what is the independent variable? And then you want to tell me what's the dependent variable. And then how about what factor is being held constant? And you might have more than one answer here. And letter D, how would you construct a control? All right, so see what you can do with question 7. And finally, section 1.4 focuses on scientific research. And in this picture, I'm showing you in pure research, the scientist would be looking at knowledge for the sake of learning something. So, you know, way back when they knew that lightning occurred, they didn't really know what it was. So pure research would have involved, well, what is lightning? And then, of course, what is electricity? And then when we begin applied research, we look at, well, gee whiz, how could we use this in some practical way? And this, of course, is a, yes, you guessed it, a light bulb. So let's see if we can kind of think about those 2 items in terms of understanding the difference between pure research and applied research. And I believe this would be your last question. Question 8, is technology a product of pure research or applied research? And then give me an explanation. Some of these questions come directly from your textbook and some of them do not. And so use your textbook as a resource if you're having a little difficulty. And of course you have the beauty of being able to replay and listen to me again for those of you that couldn't get enough. So anyway, and of course we will talk about it in class if you have any questions. So as always, you can always send me an email if you have any questions that you don't wish to ask in class, or if you come up with them at some other time. So hopefully you have enjoyed the second screencast, and have a good afternoon or evening, whatever that happens to be.